Persistence. Persistence, and when I say that, because when you're passionate about something and it's aligned to your purpose and you're persistent about making sure that you can achieve it, that means that things are going to come, obstacles are going to present themselves. But when you realize you have to stay the course, no matter what it looks like, then you will actually get there, even if it's micro inch by micro inch. Just continue to keep moving forward, even with that sense of blind faith you need sometimes. You don't have all the answers, but don't stop. Look at failure differently. Fail forward faster. Failure is just an opportunity to ante up again and put something more awesome on the table.
Welcome to Season 2 of the Amani Experience Podcast. In this podcast, you will experience wisdom, advice, and stories from creatives all over the world. Your host is the award-winning Amani Roberts, who is a DJ, music producer, professor, voracious book reader, and a skilled chef. On the show, we love to share the stories of creative professionals, especially people who have gone from the corporate life to the creative life. Once again, welcome to Season 2 of the Amani Experience Podcast.
Welcome to episode 54 of the Amani Experience Podcast. For this episode, we have Dr. Deena Brown. She is the founder of the Lead Her Shift Academy. Really had a great time talking with Deena. Three of my favorite things about the interview was she's very funny. She leaves a great trail of wisdom throughout the interview. She talks about fear, and specifically the fear of success, which can really kind of break people down. It was really interesting to get her perspective on that. And then she just talked about believing in yourself. I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. First, remember to subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a rating. That helps us with visibility. If you need to reach me, you can email me at podcast@amaniexperience.com. Thank you very much for listening, and to the show we go. Our guest today is an internationally best-selling author, speaker, and leadership coach. Her clients affectionately call her the Catalyst because she makes shift happen. In 2017, our guest founded the Leader Shift movement to help women create systems to shift and gain clarity about their why, build unshakable confidence about their next, and develop consistent actions to achieve their goals. According to our guest, you can't have professional growth without personal development. I agree. Her book, Mindful Leadership, 26 Affirmations to Activate the Intentional Leader Within You, is available on Amazon. Our guest has been featured on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox as a highly sought-after keynote speaker, millennial leadership coach, and her leadership and growth expert. Yet her greatest role is mom to 16-year-old Xavier. I would like to welcome Dr. Deena Brown to the Amani Experience Podcast.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
We are very excited to have you here. Nice to meet you. So we do a geographical check-in. Right now we're in our mobile studio in Manhattan Beach, California.
Beautiful.
Where did you grow up?
I actually grew up, I'm born in Los Angeles, USC Medical Center, raised in the Valley, like, oh my God, I'm a Valley girl. I went to college in San Diego. And then after that, left the area and to Virginia, and then spent the last 16 years overseas in Germany and South Korea.
Okay. So you went to Old Dominion down East Coast. That's in, is that what, Norfolk?
Norfolk.
Yeah, Norfolk. Yeah. So I grew up in the D.C. area, so I know Norfolk, Hampton area pretty well.
Yeah.
And then you got your PhD at Southern Mississippi?
Yes, University of Southern Mississippi. Cali girl in Mississippi. It was an experience.
So how do you compare living overseas, living in Norfolk, and living in Southern Mississippi? Southern Mississippi is in which city in Mississippi? Hattiesburg. Okay, so very diverse places to live. How do you compare all 4 or 5?
They're actually incomparable because at each stage and journey of my life, I was in a different phase. The beauty about Mississippi, and I'll start there because that was my final experience on the educational track and journey, was that I actually left. I was living overseas, and I came every summer to Mississippi for residency's sake to finish my doctorate. Okay. So Mississippi, heat of the summer.
Can we say humidity?
Humidity, sticky, but also very enlightening about what happens, in the summers in Mississippi. Norfolk, again, very similar. Summers by the water, sticky, hot, mosquitoes, and bugs. And then actually, overseas, if I was in Germany, even in South Korea, same thing. It's monsoon season, so it's very sticky and it's very wet. But my life experiences in those places is what really was left an indelible mark on who I was. I recall driving down one of the back roads in Mississippi, and someone was having a camp meeting, and I was on my way to the coast, and Ocean City, I believe. But to see those fires and those camps and things that you would normally just see on television was very shocking for me. I know it exists. I wasn't naive. But to be in the car driving and you look to the right and you see the Confederate flag waving, the banners going, and everybody kind of going into the camp meeting, all I can do was make sure the door was locked, my gas tank was full, and my foot was pressed down to the pedal to the metal.
Yes, we're not making any stops for a long time.
No, and I will run over you if you get in my way.
Wow.
So very different, but great.
Cool. How would you summarize yourself in 30 seconds or less?
A dynamic diva with a vision and a purpose that is on a mission to be an ambassador for Christ and an agent for change.
Well done. Well done. Now, you lived overseas for over 16 years working for the government.
Yes.
Talk to us about what you did over there.
Well, do you have security clearance?
I do.
Oh, all right. Okay, then I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about that. Well, I've been an educator over 20 years. And so for the Department of Defense, I work for the Department of Defense Education Activity. So initially, I was an educator, and then I moved into administration. The last nearly 10 years I spent as a school principal. So middle and high school principal. And with that comes everything from being the psychologist, the facilities manager, the healer, the instructional specialist, the community ambassador, the speaker, all of those things.
And then how big were the schools that you were principal of?
One school would range between 700 students, and then my last school was actually a small unit school, and we ranged up to about 100, but we had grades from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade.
Interesting. And you had like a diverse subset of students from military families, correct?
Absolutely. The last naval base was diverse to an extent, but again, overseas, you don't tend to have a wide span. My son happened to be in my last school when he was a middle schooler, and he was one of two, at times one of three African-American students. So we still had heavily Asian students in school. And so the balance was actually heavily Asian because of our geographics.
Right.
And then we did also have some Caucasians, but the cultural experiences where the diversity actually, we got a chance to manifest that, which was fantastic.
Interesting. Any memorable cultural experiences that pop off right, into your mind immediately?
Yes. One of my experiences has been to be a 2012 Blue Ribbon principal for academic excellence. One of the areas that we focused on was community involvement. I had the opportunity to be instrumental in bridging between a local Korean kindergarten in our school. So we actually had students from the local kindergarten come to our school once a week to, again, authenticity, bring the community into the school. And we formed a great partnership where our students got to actually engage with those students on a regular, consistent basis. And that relationship, we did amazing things. The Lantern Festival, we did holidays together. Chuseok was one of my favorite, which is the Korean Thanksgiving, was amazing. So we did a lot of things that begin to bridge the gap between cultures and people, so kids could see other kids as we have so many similarities, and we don't need to focus on our differences.
True. And then how did you find your way back stateside and start your own business?
I had to take a breath on that one. We all walk on the same journey but take different paths. We get to a point when we realize that our purpose and passion no longer line up with our profession. So although I loved my kids, I loved what I did, I was miserable and dying inside because there was no growth. And when I approached those that had the power to shift that, they thought that I should be happy in my golden handcuffs and be quiet and just be happy because I had a very great paycheck, you have position, you have power, so what else do you want? I needed more, I needed growth. And each day began like a prison sentence where I began to become a shadow of who I was. And I realized that something had to change because I was literally physically dying inside.
And then for that to happen, for you to make a change, it takes a lot of courage.
Yes.
What did you do to summon the courage to make a massive shift from being an educator over 16 years, you've got your PhD, to now starting your own business in not a new country, but you're going back to your home country?
Well, it did take a lot of courage, but it took a lot of prayer. And I would say that it took a lot of fortitude and perseverance on that side. Because situations begin to be so bad that I didn't have another option. And sometimes God will maneuver you in a place when you're not listening. So sometimes he goes, I've been trying to push you. I told you to leave 3 years ago, but now here's a kick. And things got so bad that I had no other choice but to go. And when I did, I realized that I didn't want to go back into K-12, but I loved what I did with helping shape lives and building strategic plans and empowering individuals. And I said, I want to do that all the time. And I said, well, let me then just do that. I don't have to put myself back into the box. The cage bird doesn't have to sing inside the cage anymore. Right. So I decided that I would work on consulting. So came back to California where my home place was and began to do leadership development, coaching and training for like the city of Irvine, places like Boma, OC, Los Angeles MEPS, and doing leadership and development training. And I've always loved that. I love building capacity within people and helping them see just how amazing they are.
Cool. So after you got stateside and you came back and you started to create your own business, when was the turning point? When did you realize, okay, this is going to work. I see kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, and we're going to be all in this endeavor?
I'm still looking for the light in the journal because I think that you go what I call transitional depression. Is that you go into a new space, you're going to do things, and you are excited. Entrepreneurship, I'm going to work for myself, I'm going to have my own life. When you come from this very regimented background, and now you have this sense of freedom, it's almost like letting a kid in a candy store stay up all night with their friends. And so you're going on this path and journey, and you're spending money you don't need to spend, you're buying programs you don't need to buy, but yet you haven't really invested 100% of yourself because it's still not real to you. So along that journey, it was probably about, I don't know, maybe about 6-7 months ago that I said, let me stop playing entrepreneur. I'm making contacts. I came back. I had very early success, yes. Meaning my skill sets began to open doors. I was getting, contracts. I had never had to hunt. I was always the hunted. So after those initial contracts started drying up, I'm like, oh, no one's calling. Hey. And they go, oh, you have to go back and call them? You got to go hunt?
Yes.
What? And it was an eye-opening experience for me. And I had to realize that I had to get serious and that I had to be more strategic and that I had to stop giving everything away. I had to stop use my time really wisely instead of, now there is no free time in entrepreneurship. You have to begin to delineate your time so that you can maximize your opportunities. So 6 months ago, I said, okay, time to get real, literally. And that, what are you going to do? Who are you going to speak to? I was really great at selling other people and developing them, but I was a little clueless at selling myself. Mm-hmm. I know my value, but I thought, I'm a giver. I do, and that's what I did my whole life for 20 years. So to make a mind shift had to happen. And it's nothing like having a 16-year-old, 6'3", hungry child looking at you going, what we gonna do to make you say, okay, it's time to stop pivoting and looking around and to shift into getting real about what I needed to do next. So the last 6 months, I had to get very clear. What do I want to do? Yes, I'm talented in many areas, but let me drill down to what I'm most passionate about, what's purposeful, and let's turn that into the bigger paycheck and set a strategic plan and make sure that any and everything in my life lines up to that. And if it does not, it has to go, including people.
Okay. What were maybe three strategy shifts you made to really focus on being a hunter and growing your business in the last 6 to 9 months? 1,
strategic networking. I need to know who I need to know to get to the next level. And those are the people that I make a list and make a point to be intentional about getting to know them on an authentic basis. You always start with a heart of service. How can I help you? Let me learn, let me glean. Instead of with your hand out, we're asking for something. It's lending a hand so that I can learn from you and build an authentic relationship. So then once you know, like, and trust me, then we can do business. And then maybe I will do business with you as well, but you have to establish that relationship. So strategic networking was great. The second thing is being very mindful about my time and who I am. 50% of knowing who you are is knowing who you're not. And once you get very clear and focused on who you are, anytime you're shaken and things come up and it doesn't go your right way, if you're clear on who you are, that's what's going to spill out of your cup. And so, again, being very mindful and intentional about that. The third thing is that realizing that it's okay to just do me. I am all about Team Deena. All about Team Deena. Because pouring into me allows me to be able to pour into you because I'm operating from a place of giving and sacrifice, servanthood, but definitely not servitude. And that when you get to that place and realize that it's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence.
Oh, yeah.
I do not owe you an explanation, and if I give you one, consider it a gift.
Now, I have a T-shirt that says no is a complete sentence, so
Okay.
I agree. Well said. You spoke about networking.
Yes.
Many entrepreneurs, creative people in general, struggle with effective networking. If you were going to give the audience some tips on how to effectively network, what tips would you share?
Oh, I love to do this. This is one of my clips from I did for CBS. I want to give you the acronym EAR. Is that the E stands for ease into it. Begin to look at the opportunities if you're an introvert to say, where can I go and do this? And I can do this on my terms, maybe a small group, a chamber, have a wing person actually with you to kind of buffer, get there early so that you can position yourself and that you don't feel like all eyes are on you. And that's for introverts, and even if you're not an introvert, but really particularly for introverts. And the A is actually be aware of who's in the room. Do your research. Do your research. Who do you need to know? Do not try to pass your business card out to everybody. Identify 3, 4, depending on the size of the engagement, who's in the room, and say, I want to connect to them. Be very intentional. Write it down. Have in your mind, what you want to say, which brings me to the R in ear, is to rehearse. Rehearse, practice. What do you want to say? And I don't mean that canned elevator speech you rehearsed at one of your networking meetings and they had you stand up and it sounds like a carbon. Begin to understand what you want to say because you're going to start with listening to that person and know that you can actually go in 1 or 2 ways to respond to them to showcase who you are and make yourself memorable. So remember ear, which we got to listen, which is the biggest part of networking.
Excellent. Excellent. In your opinion, what is important for creative professionals such as yourself and myself to succeed in today's business environment?
Persistence. Persistence. And when I say that, because when you're passionate about something and it's aligned to your purpose and you're persistent about making sure that you can achieve it, that means that things are going to come. Obstacles are going to present themselves. But when you realize you have to stay the course, no matter what it looks like, then you will actually get there. Even if it's micro inch by micro inch, just continue to keep moving forward. Even with that sense of blind faith you need sometimes. You don't have all the answers, but don't stop. Look at failure differently. Fail forward faster. Failure is just an opportunity to ante up again and put something more awesome on the table.
Yeah. Now, many people be persistent, persevere, be resilient, kind of similar to what you said, struggle with growing their resilience muscle, as we talk about. What would you advise people to do when they're trying to grow their resilience muscle? Because failure can scare off people quickly and they say, you know what, this is not for me. How can people grow their resilience muscle?
Because fear is huge and it's real, face it. And don't give it a vote, though. Acknowledge it. Yes, I am afraid, but that's all right. I'm going to do it anyway. Yes, this kind of scares me a little bit, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's when you don't let fear have a vote. So you can acknowledge it because it's real, and it's the fact that we try to say, well, I'm not afraid, and no, I have this, and that false bravado is really what makes you crazy. It's realizing that, yes, I'm afraid, and you own it, And then say, but you don't get a vote in choosing my destiny and my decision. If it didn't work, it's going to work the next time, because what I'm going to take away is a lesson that this was an opportunity for me to grow. And that's how you begin to build that resilience muscle. Facing one fear at a time, one moment at a time. So start small in the beginning if you need to. Don't try to take everything in the whole bucket. Pick one thing and say, I'm going to be very intentional and very strategic about facing this. And then once I'm successful with that, let me go to the next one.
Nice. Why do you love what you do?
Oh, I love what I do because there's nothing like seeing, hearing, connecting with someone who truly understands who they are and that they were put here to add value to other people. And when you see that their mind is now open to all the possibilities and plausibilities, that means that as a connectedness, or because we are connected, we have an interconnectedness, that all of our lives are going to be better. So I love what I do because each one teach one kind of philosophy and mentality is that if I have something that's going to help you get to your next grader and you have something that's going to help someone else get to the next grader, then just think how amazing this world, this place, our communities are going to be.
And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, what is something that scares you?
What scares me, and I had a talk with my cousin the other day, success scares me sometimes.
Okay.
And I don't take on certain projects. It's not a fear of failure. It's the responsibility of the success. And that I know that everything I put my hands to, because God's already ordained it for me, is going to be great. But do I really want that responsibility and not weight on my shoulders? So that success means I'm going to have to continue and ante up. And I know who I am is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So when you understand the greatness and the largesse thereof, that sense of success is actually scarier than the sense of failure.
Yes. That's, I think, the second or third most common fear is fear of success. Why do you feel that's the case?
Responsibility and privacy. And I call it like that commitment. That I don't have a choice now. I got to show up. I got to show up. It's not about me. I got to show up. You can't hide. I'm an ambivert. And that we tend to want to hide. Yes, we like helping people, and we're very gregarious, we're outgoing, but it can be very draining. So then we like to go hide in our little shell. But you can't hide when you have to, when everything is riding on you. And it's your big scary dream. Because that's what touches you the most. So that fear of success is that, wow, it is, and now what's next? And everybody's going to see my vulnerability, what I hold most dear. And then it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I have to grow with it. And change is hard. And so it's really the fear of change.
Fear of change. Your industry, the professional speaking industry, is a crowded space. How do you rise above all the noise and distinguish yourself from the competition?
I am unapologetically authentic. And when I show up, one of my first goals is to connect with the audience, to connect and see what it is. And I always pray and I ask God, I said, let me make sure I give them what they need, not what I thought they wanted. Give them what they need. So I prepare and I go through that process, but I spend that time connecting and making sure that whatever comes out of my mouth was exactly what God wanted and intended for them to hear to transform their lives. Because I have one job, inspire, empower, and transform lives.
Excellent. You spoke about failure before.
Yes.
How has a failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
A favorite failure? Who has favorite failures? Well, I had a epic entrepreneurial faux pas.
Okay, talk to us.
And that was in regards of business. And we have to be cautious about who and how we do business. Now, even my mama has to sign the contract. You cannot do business with friends and family differently than you do business. Business is business. So when I first decided to launch, and we always want to go big, and I was having my theme songs, I thought if Chef has theme music, I need my own theme music. And I had a very, very, very dear friend who's in the music space say, I got you, wrote me the songs, like we're going to go, record it, you cover just the studio time, did that. He had the artist, do you mind I use this new artist? No, blah, blah, blah. They were friends of his. So I'm thinking they have that all covered. We do the recording, it's great, the song is fire. Then afterward, there became issue with the parent and the daughter of the person that sang on the track, where they started coming to me going, well, where's our royalty percent? What are you talking about? I didn't do business with you. And it turned into a fiasco of harassment where I had to get an order because they were showing my house. They were going after my business. And this was for a theme song for like intro music to my program.
Wow.
And I said, that's not what the purpose was. And you were, well, we didn't know that. And then it came out that the child was only 17. And so you can't use the song anymore because I never signed the paperwork to sign that. You were in the studio with the child. I don't even know you. I just met you that day. He made the arrangements.
Wow.
So I'm out of money. I just decided, and I said, you know what? I don't need this. I'm going to can it. I won't use it. I lost my money from the studio. Then they continue to go after, because then they go, well, we want the song. We want the rights to the song, which still belong to me. Absolutely not. Turned into a fiasco. So I'm a member of the John Maxwell team. Actually then contacted them. So their legal team had to get involved because it was now defamation towards me, saying that I was exploiting a minor for a 96-second. Very expensive, very headache, the legal dollars that had to go into this, if I just would have said, did you get whoever you selected to sign a contract? Can I see this paperwork? But I just blindly trusted, because they were in that business, but they also trusted this person who was a friend of theirs, that everything was going to be copacetic, but other people got involved. So huge, epic entrepreneurial lesson, failure, out of money, but I'm glad it happened early. So now I just make sure that we always do business as business, and even my mama signs a contract.
Excellent lesson. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you get more popular and more known in the industry, you acquire more critics.
Yes.
How do you handle your critics, or your haters, as we like to call them?
Oh, I don't carry their monkeys. Their monkey, they carry it. I like me, and if you like me, that's a bonus, because I'm a mission and I have a purpose. Now, what I do take is feedback, authentic feedback, but the way I process it is different. So every time I do a lot of self-reflection, I do self-evaluation, and I look at things and I always ask, how could I do better? How could I do better? How could I do better? I have an understanding that everyone is not going to love what I do, nor do I want everyone to. I like cognitive dissonance. That's where change occurs. So you're going to make me ante up when you do give me very specific, direct feedback. But if it's just hating on the beautiful locks or the fact that I'm divalicious, go on about your business, fool. I don't have time to worry about that, And so I let them carry their own monkeys.
I've never heard that before, but I'm going to write that down. That's going to be part of the show notes. Wow. Tell us about the darkest time of your life, how you got through that, and what did you learn from that experience?
Well, I wouldn't say it was the darkest time, but it was a recent, extremely dark moment. And that's when my co-pilot, my co-parent, the other half of me, she died in December at 42. And my bury a dead body friend, we talk every day, she literally was the other part of me. And it was unexpected. And to wake up and realize that she's not there, I still pick up the phone and call and realize she's not going to answer. I still replay the voicemails, and that I'm still processing through that time. Definitely. And that it made me look at life much differently and really begin to focus, because I hear her voice all the time. And she would say, number one, when I got down on myself and I said, do you know who you are? She would just kind of go, shut up. I'm sick of you. You've done this, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. What are you talking about? Because I always felt that I didn't do enough yet. I'm, 29 plus tax and gratuity, and I still have so much left to offer, and she was my reality check. So even driving in the car the other day, when I'm driving, we talk. And so as a tear still streamed down my face every day, I just asked God, just make me miss her a little bit less every day and smile a little bit more. And that I don't know the why, but I know the who, and I trust God. So I get through the day, and I get through every day by understanding that I don't need to know that. I need to continue to do what he called me to do and to continue to manifest everything that he's planted inside of me. And that's honoring her memory, and it's honoring the gift that God blessed me with.
So sorry to hear about your loss, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
I know that in certain instances when this would happen to someone who's an entrepreneur, it can completely shut them down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because we depend on ourselves for our business, so
Right.
it can completely shut you down for years.
Mm-hmm.
How have you been able to persevere, keep going, keep growing your business while processing what's happened to you and your family?
Well, the way this impacted me, it actually made me get laser focused and strategic because life's too short. So I actually anteed up. And maybe I look at, diversity, adversity actually differently as an opportunity to what I call ante up. And I said, now get your life together. I said, get your ish together. So what are you going to do? So it actually ramped me up where I was kind of slowing the pace and doing that, is that there's some automation, to the business. There's also, again, like we talked about, strategic. What am I going to do today to create the income and the business model that I need for not only tomorrow, but as part of my legacy? Because we were legacy builders, and I am a legacy builder. So with that, it was very strategic. I began to put myself back out there again. I got complacent before, so it actually had an opposite effect. I didn't shut down because I used that energy. And I actually gave myself time to process. And people say, are you okay? No, but I'm getting there. And on days that weren't so great, I set the timer literally and said, you have 10 minutes to be all over the place, and then you will get yourself back in gear.
Wow.
It was tough. I was tough on myself.
Yeah. How did this change your perspective on life?
It just made me value the people that have been assigned to me and make sure that every day I make the opportunity to tell someone that I love them, to not only tell them, but I show them so my audio and video actually matches, and to make sure that anyone and everyone that I encounter, that I do something to brighten their day. So when I'm working on jobs, I have something I call elevator ministry, lobby ministry, hall ministry, and it's gotten quite famous in one of the buildings I'm working and consulting in. And I tell them, now you're an ambassador, so that means we're in this elevator together. Can you smile at someone? Can you say hello? Can you do something as we're on our way up to change and shift the atmosphere? Because again, I'm the catalyst. Shift will happen.
Yeah.
I will not allow anything else or accept anything less.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. I did catch how you said your 29 plus tax and gratuity too. I caught that. I like that. I might have to borrow that. That was clever. I caught that. Who was the most influential person for you growing up?
My mom. Ruby Louise Hill was the most, and still is one of the most influential people in my life. And the reason that I share that is that it wasn't that life was always perfect, but we were always in a space of learning and growing, and she always challenges us to stretch. And even by, her actions and seeing things and things that even that she did that wasn't so perfect, that we realized, oh, I don't want to do that. Or I'll tell people that, right now you have Dr. Brown, you don't want Ruby Louise. So I'm going to need you to back up because Ruby Louise is still extremely a part of my DNA. Okay? And so I learned that, but my mom always taught us to be in control of our destiny. And that when life's challenges happen, those are bumps on the road, and those are obstacles that are set there to help us to climb over and to teach us something better about ourselves, to get us to go to the next level. So embrace it and say, okay, I got this. And that it wouldn't be there if it wasn't there to grow you or to stretch you. Nice.
What do you find easy to do that your friends find hard to do?
Think. And I'm not trying to be capricious at all. Is that I'm a thinker. I just sit all day long, and this is actually how I began to cultivate my business. And I realized what I thought people easily thought this to do. I'm concrete abstract. So I see the big picture, then I'm easily able to scaffold the steps in between that to create strategic plans. So people would call me and they would say, I don't know what to do and what's going on. And I would look at us, oh, that? Here you go. There you go. They go, how did you do that? I said, well, you didn't see it. I saw the big picture. I saw all your parts. I brought them together. Here's how you step them and put them in an organizational manner so that you can actually facilitate and foster and put them into place, have action plans, and there you go. And they go, how did you do that? I just saw it. I literally visually see it. And I said, I'm always thinking. So again, the solution maker. And that became part of when I decided to niche down and focus on what I wanted to do in my business model as a coach and even as a speaker and as a teacher, was to teach people how to become very strategic and to not only understand who they are and how to think, but how to put action plans in place so that they can actually get to their next grader.
Why do people call you the catalyst?
Because I make shit happen. You cannot be in my space without changing. Look, you're already talking about it. You said, oh, I'm going to have to use that. Oh, I'm going to take that. Oh, I'm going to add these to the notes. Because anytime I'm in someone's presence, it is my understanding that I am there to add value. And sometimes it's by a word, it's by a deed, or just by modeling certain behaviors. And that's how shift happens. You cannot think the same. Once a mind has been stretched by a new idea, it can never return to its original dimensions. And that's me.
It's Saturday, but I would be like, can we get an amen?
I know.
So, we'll wait till tomorrow for the Sabbath, but I'm going to say it anyways. When you were 21, you were at San Diego State, correct?
Yes.
We're going to go back and we're going to talk to 21-year-old Dr. Deena. And we're going to give her some advice. What advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
Don't marry that man. No.
That could be the advice.
Advice. Don't get married so soon. 21-year-old Deena. Oh, my gosh. I've always been like extra.com, so I'm trying to think of her. But one of the biggest things that I would say that I would give to 21-year-old Deena is that trust and believe in yourself. You are enough. And that you don't need to be validated by someone else and their acceptance of you. That who you are has always been there from the very beginning. And each level and journey and road and mark in your path is going to uncover a new layer. So trust the process, and it's okay to start now. And just begin to live. I was so much more serious. I was so much more focused, but I was also, it's not, I wouldn't say insecure. That's not really the best term to ever describe me. It was really just unsure as to what I should be doing, and that people would say, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And I was so busy trying to be everything they wanted me to be that I was not showing up as my authentic self and being who I really, truly knew inside my heart I wanted to be.
And who was that person?
I want to be a movie star. No, just kidding. No, but I do love talking to people, and I said I always wanted my own show. I want my own syndicated show to help people. There's only one Oprah, there's only one Dr. Phil. Back then it was like Maury Povich and everybody else. Donahue, etc. But I wanted to collect stories. I wanted to share stories with people to help them transform their lives. So I've always wanted to do that, to make documentaries about interesting and passionate people who were doing things that was impacting other people. And so now I'm at that phase of my life that I'm now taking on that 21-year-old Deena, that dream that she had, because people said, oh, you're good at business. Oh, you're good at that. Oh, you should be doing this. You should be doing that. So now I'm starting to collect my stories, and I will produce my documentary.
Love it. Keep collecting the stories. I know someone's got an interesting story as well for you, so we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
What is the one lesson in life that took you the longest to learn?
Gosh, so many. Is that I think being stubborn will cause you to be stuck. And when I say stuck, and I'm talking about mired in quicksand, we need to get out of our own way sometimes. And being stubborn is not being, passionate. It's not our truth. It's not being authentic. Sometimes it's just being stubborn. You know better. You know you should have just changed. You know you should have said, oh, my bad. You know you should have just given that away. And the longer you hold on to that, whether it's an idea, whether it's a person, whether it's a profession, the longer you're going to stay stuck and you will never reach any closer to your final destination.
I like that. Every great person has a sentence. What is your sentence? For example, my sentence is, I love to help people unlock their creativity by teaching them how to DJ. What is your sentence?
Is that I love to create shift, especially in women, by changing the way we think about ourselves as women and how we respond as leaders. Because the change starts with us, as does life.
Yes, yes. You're taking us to church here.
Oh, I can't help it. That's what I do.
What is one new habit you've added to your daily routine in the past year or so that has been most beneficial?
I meditate every day, a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes in the morning and a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes at night. It brings clarity, it brings focus, it gives my mind a rest, and it helps me actually just center myself and slouch out some of the toxins that have just been attached to me throughout the day.
For someone who might be new into the meditation practice, what advice would you give them on how to get started?
Start with 5, work up to 15, and set a timer. There's so many different types of meditation, to be honest with you. Like for me, it was just about being quiet. So I would advise some of my clients, actually, who they were just so busy. I said, go into the bathroom, and you can only take your phone because you need it for a timer. Go into the handicap stall. Hopefully nobody's going to give them a ticket. And just sit. Don't talk on it. Don't look at anything. Just sit. Start with 5 minutes. If you can't get away, turn the lights off. And I used to just, chant, things just quiet, because my mind was always working. So whatever fits for you, you just kind of find that space. But I'd say start with 5, work up to 15, and you can go longer. Now they have great apps that you could use as well for meditating. But to me, just go find a space. You owe it to yourself. You will be more productive. You keep saying, I don't have the time. You don't have the time not to. Because if you're a hot mess, everything else you touch is going to be a hot mess.
We are voracious readers here on the Money Experience podcast. If there was 1, 2, or 3 books you feel people should stop what they're doing right now and start to read them immediately, what books would you recommend?
My favorite book, and I read it over and over again, is The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth with John Maxwell. I love that because as we talk about the laws of growth and we look at, the law of intentionality, where we become intentional about it and how we see ourselves. It's just really powerful, even the law of navigation, because how we begin to lead ourselves is how we're going to actually lead others. And that is one of my all-time favorite books. I love to teach on it. I love to train and do mastermind groups on the book as well. In addition to that, it just happens to be another John Maxwell book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Yes. Is one of my favorites as well. And you can just keep pulling nuggets out of that and in different phases of your life and leadership level within an organization, whether you're the CEO, whether you're leading from the middle or your entry level, those laws actually are applicable, and then they're transferable as you go up and down and side to side. One of my fun books that I love to read, have I read anything that was just like really, really, really fun? I'm waiting for a new book to come in, which is The Nordic Law of Everything. That was recommended to me, and it's about really simplicity and actually beginning to scale away things. So I'm really excited about that book that's coming, and I heard it's fantastic. So I'll let you guys know about that one.
Let us know. Who are some of your favorite professional speakers that you like to either go watch in person or watch some of their archived speeches?
Lisa Nichols, of course. She is so transformational. She's just so relatable. And the lessons that she has, the nuggets are just so real. So she has to be, and has been for years, just amazing. Definitely John Maxwell. I love being in the room and being in mentorship with him and being a part of just to even be able to be on the call with him, to hear him speak. And he speaks such life into us. And then myself. I am an amazing speaker, and I learn some things from myself sometimes when I'm speaking into others. And I'm not saying that like to be funny, but I was listening to a talk that I recently did on Are You Ready for Your Epiphany? and getting clear about who you are so that you can act accordingly. And as I was addressing people, I thought, wow, are you listening to yourself? Because that was good stuff, because things were coming from me relating to the people in the audience. And I looked out at one particular lady in general, and I just started speaking to her. I just went to this whole other, and as I went back and heard the replay, I was like, dang, that was good. You better listen. And so I think that as speakers, we have to be great storytellers. And it's nothing like our own story that we can use to help people transform their lives.
Yes. So I'm going to paint a picture for you. We're going to be at a baseball game.
Okay.
They're about to call Dr. Deena up to bat with their Delta Sigma Theta jersey on. Props,
Hey.
shout out. What song is playing as you walk up to bat?
My new theme song. My song that's playing as I walk up the back is Just Fine, Mary J. Blige. That is my all-time. That I could be laying down, sleep, in a coma. I hear that song, I come out the coma, jump up, and it is on for real. Just Fine, Mary J. Blige. I love that song.
Yes, we're big Mary J. Blige fans, so, ever since What's the 411?
Yes.
Now, as you look back on your career and your life so far, still very young, 29 plus tax and gratuity, what are maybe some of your most proudest accomplishments to date?
My singular most proudest accomplishment is my son, Xavier. He is the best thing I've ever made and my greatest achievement. And every day I tell him that, literally every day. And when I look at him, he's the best of me. His personality, he's more the low-key version of me, but his ability to think and process and his genuine love of people and helping people, I see that. And even when I feel like maybe I didn't get things right, when I look at him, I know I did something right. He's my greatest achievement.
Tell people how they can find you online and where you live in the social media world.
Yes, where I live. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dr. Deena Speaks, DrDeena_SPEAKS. And you can catch me Sundays at 6 p.m. on LA Talk Radio on Get Real with Dr. Deena. I would love for you to join us over there. We are live. And you can also go visit my website, www.dbcoachingandconsulting.com, and find out all kinds of yumminess over there about ways that I can definitely help you shift to your next grader.
Excellent. We'll make sure to link that all in the show notes. And before I ask the final question, just want to say thank you very much for appearing on the show. It's been a pleasure meeting you, listening to you talk as you drop wisdoms. You make me laugh. I definitely think we will have you back again because you've got your wealth of information. I find your story, just your travel overseas and back and recreating yourself relatable. I've done that myself and very inspiring. So keep pushing forward. We are fans. And we let our guests always leave the show with any last-minute advice or words of wisdom for our audience. So I'll say thank you again, and I will let you take us home.
Wow. Thank you for having me. I have to say this has been such a joyous experience, and I feel honored to be before you today. I'll give you the one. I usually end my show with these three things, but we've talked a lot, so they got a lot of nuggets. But I didn't speak to this. Know in your life what's ego and what's essential. Let those things that are ego-related, let it go, and begin to focus, especially as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as a parent, as a spiritual leader, on what's essential. And that's people, places, things, whatever that is that you actually need and who actually pour value into you and that you actually add value to. But all that ego stuff, let it go. It's do nothing but bringing you down. Because pigeons can't fly with eagles and chickens don't fly at all. Where exactly do you want to soar?
Couldn't have said it any better. Love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Amani Experience podcast. You can check out the show notes on amaniexperience.com/podcast. Feel free to email us at podcast@amaniexperience.com. Please remember to leave us a review on the platform you are listening on and share this podcast with anyone you feel would benefit from listening. See you soon for our next episode.